Let's review converting to scientific notation. This is a whole number, so our exponent is going to be positive. Let's put the 0 at the back of the whole number and count up all the way to behind the 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is going to be 8 and 51/100ths times 10 to the 11th. On number 2, it starts as a decimal. So my exponent is going to be negative. So let's count from the decimal to get behind the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this in scientific notation is going to be 4 and 0/10 times 10 to the negative 5. Try the next one. Number 3 is a decimal. So when you put it in scientific notation, it's going to have a negative exponent. You need to move the decimal one place to the right in order to get a number between 0 and 9. So it would be 2.2 times 10 to the negative 1. On number 4, it is a whole number. So your exponent, when you put it in scientific notation, is going to be positive. So you put your decimal at the back and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it would be 1 and 6/10 times 10 to the 7th power. Let's look at the column where you convert to standard form. This exponent is positive, so I'm going to move my decimal to the right to make a whole number. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to fill in any of the empty spaces with a 0. On this one, you should have gotten 23,000. Number 12, you have a negative exponent, so you want to move the decimal to the left 3 places in order to make a decimal. 1, 2, 3. Don't forget to put your 0 in front of the decimal as well. Fill in any of the empty spaces with a 0. Number 13 also has a negative exponent, so I'm going to move my decimal 7 places to the left. Number 14 also has a negative exponent, so I'm going to move my decimal 1 place to the left. Pause the video and try 5 through 10 on the left column and 15 through 20 on the right column. Check your answers from the following problems. Let's compare. On number 21, you have 0.0076 compared to 7 and 4/10 times 10 to the negative 3. In order to compare these properly, you need to make the scientific notation, put that in standard form. It is to a negative 3, so you're going to move your decimal 3 places to the left. Now compare. 76/10,000ths is greater than 74/10,000ths. On number 23, in order to compare properly, make sure you place each number in standard form. 4 and 9/100ths times 10 to the negative 3, you need to move the decimal 3 places to the left. Now compare. this is less than 0.04. If it helps, make sure you stack your numbers so you can compare by column. These are both zeros, so move to the next number. These are both zeros, move to the next number. Now you're comparing a 0 and a 4. 4 is larger, so this is going to be the larger decimal. Pause the video and try 22 and 24. Check your answers with the ones below. Let's talk about absolute value. Absolute value is how far a number is from 0. The distance is always positive, so when written an absolute value, always answer positive. For example, absolute value of -6 is 6 units from 0. So the absolute value of -6 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6 units from 0. So the answer for absolute value of 6 is 6. Let's try this first column together. Absolute value of 4. 4 is 4 units from 0. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. Absolute value of -2. -2 is 2 units from 0. So the answer is 2. Absolute value of -5. -5 is 5 units from 0. So the answer is 5. This is seen as grouping. You need to simplify what's in the group first. So 5 minus 3 is 2. You want to keep the absolute value bars there. Now evaluate absolute value of 2 to give you 2. Very similar for number 13. 2 minus 5 is -3. Keep the negative that's on the outside of the absolute value bars. Now evaluate. Absolute value of -3 is 3, but you still have this negative out front. So it would be a -3 for your final answer. Pause the video and try 4 through 15, the second column, and 7 through 16, the third column. Check your answers with the ones written below. Let's find the absolute values, then order the numbers from least to greatest. Remember, when you go to write your answers, put it back in the original format. Absolute value of -2 is 2. Absolute value of 2.1 is 2.1. Absolute value of -2/3 is 2/3. Remember, 2/3 is also 0.6 repeating. Absolute value of -25 is -25. Now ordering these from least to greatest. -25 is the smallest, so I'm going to write that first. 0.6 repeating, so one step above that, so I'm going to write that. Remember, keep it in original format. Then 2, so I'm going to write absolute value of -2. And 2.1 is the largest, so I'm going to write that, keeping it in original format. Pause the video and try number 18. Check your answers with the ones written below. Let's practice rounding and equivalent place values. Remember, the number in front of the decimal is going to be the ones. After the decimal, on the right side, is the tens, then the hundreds, and then the thousands. When you're rounding to the tenths place, you want to look at the hundredths place. If the number is 5 or more, you round up. If it's less than 5, you keep it the same. So in this example, the number in the hundredths place is 4. 4 is less than 5, so I'm going to keep the 1 the same. Whereas on this one, rounding to the hundredths, I'm looking at the thousands place. If it's 5 or more, round it up. If it's 5 or less, keep it the same. So it is 5 or more, so I'm going to take the 4 and round it up to a 5. Let's practice. These want you to round it to the nearest tenths. So I'm going to look at the place in the hundredths, which is the 4. It is 5 or less, so I'm going to keep the number at 2 1/10. On number 2, it is a 4 in the hundredths place, so I'm going to keep the tenths place the same. Square root of 21 is approximately 4 58/100. You can use a calculator for that. Looking at the 8, it is 5 or more, so I'm going to round the 5 up to a 6. And on number 4, I have a 2 in the hundredths place, so I'm going to keep the tenths place the same. Pause the video and finish 5 through 16. Check your answers written below. Now let's practice rounding to the nearest hundredths. Square root of 17 is approximately 4.123. So you want to look at the thousands. It is 5. It is not 5 or more, so it's going to stay 4 12/100. Negative 4/7 is approximately negative 0.571. It is less than 5, so my hundredths place is going to remain the same. Square root of 7 is approximately 2.645. So this is 5 or more, so I'm going to round up to 2 65/100. The thousandths place on number 20 is less than 5, so I'm going to keep my decimal at 66/100. Pause the video and try 21 through 32. Check your answers with the ones written below. Let's talk about equivalent place values. In this example, to order these decimals from least to greatest, 6/10, 35/100, and 400,000ths, we must first represent them in equivalent place values, meaning get them all lined up with the same amount of numbers. So for the one that's 6/10, we want to add 2 zeros afterwards to get it to the thousands place. The one that is 35/100, add a 1 0 afterwards to get that to the thousands place, because our longest decimal with 0.400 is at the thousands place. I want them all lined up. That way it's easiest to see which one is least, which one is greatest, and which one's in the middle. Now you can compare them. So in the problems below, on number 1, 456 thousandths, you need to make sure you add a 0 to make this 310 thousandths. Now you're able to see which one is, or how to compare them. Okay, go number by number. They both have zeros here. So now go to the next number. 4 is larger. So that makes 31/100 smaller, so less than 456 thousandths. For number 2, you're comparing 1/10 and 12/100. Add a 0 to make this 10 hundredths and 12 hundredths, and you can easily see 10 hundredths is less than 12 hundredths. Number 3, 25 hundredths compared to now 30 hundredths. 25 hundredths is less, than 30 hundredths. Number 4, you have to tack on 2 zeros, so you have 4 place values, okay, making 56 hundredths greater than the other decimal. If we continue to do this, 9 and 30 hundredths compared to 9 and 30 hundredths is equivalent. This decimal has 4 place values, so we need to put 3 more decimals here. When I compare them, number by number, place value by place value, these are both zeros, move on to the next number. 2 is greater than 0, making this first decimal greater than 0. Pause the video and finish the page. Check your answers with the ones below.